Hey again, guys. I wanted to read to you the three different perspectives and experiences of the three women that I mentioned. And it's going to start with Rebecca. You should read along. You can copy and paste into Google Docs and use the highlight function. It's really helpful. I would go through and highlight some of the key parts of their identities. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and enter a total of three characteristics of their identities into the Venn diagrams that we have. So think about what's part of each woman's identity as a Jewish person and what might be a part of their identity outside of being a Jewish person. You'll find that I think most fall into the Jewish identity category. So again, I'm going to start with Rebecca. In the Torah, there are 613 commandments. They involve everything from how you treat other people to Jewish holidays and how we observe them, and the Sabbath, which is every week, and how we observe that. It's like a guide how to live. There are also a lot of dietary laws. The dietary laws say we can only eat certain kinds of meat that are killed and prepared in a certain way. We can't eat meat at non-kosher restaurants. My parents like to remind me of this funny story. One time I was 2, we were driving past a Burger King. I saw the sign and I yelled out, "That sign says Burger King, no burgers for Jewish people." I picked up on those observances. It was always something that was a part of me. I recognized that it was important. We set the Sabbath aside as a day of rest because God rested on the seventh day after creating the world. Because of this, there are lots of rules for things you can and can't do. It's supposed to be a day of rest. You're not supposed to do any type of work or watch TV, use the computer, use electricity, or any of that stuff. For me, it's very spiritual. It really separates the day out from the rest of the week. I spend a lot of time with my family, from Friday night at sundown until Saturday night. I go to prayers at my synagogue in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon. It's just a really spiritual experience. It makes it more of an important day. I haven't gone to see a movie on a Saturday or Friday night ever. It's weird being in a public high school because you're faced with being in a school where there's lots of activities on Friday nights and things to miss out on. Like all the school plays are on Friday nights. I have to give up trying out for school plays. And sports. I used to play softball, but there are games every Saturday, so I couldn't play those. A lot of people look at it like, how can you give up all this stuff because of your religion? It's just a matter of how you look at it. You can look at it as being a burden, that you have these religious obligations, so you're not able to do your school activities. But I look at it as a more positive experience. It's something that I choose to do. So here's another perspective, guys, and this is from Sarah, who's 18 years old, and she has a pretty different perspective on Judaism in her life. Again, read along. I feel really connected with my Jewish community, but a little less connected to the observance factor of my religion. I don't keep kosher. I don't really feel that's necessary. When I was little, my whole family would sit down every Friday night and light the Shabbat candles and say the blessings. We don't do that anymore. Now it's like, it's Friday night. I'm going to go out with my friends. I don't like organized prayer. Every once in a while I go to services, but I appreciate it a lot more when I do my own thing and say my own prayers. When I was younger, I never really thought I was different because I was Jewish. It didn't occur to me until high school when I started getting really involved with stuff. It's kind of weird when I really think about it. It's like I'm just like everyone else, except there's that little part of me that's going to be Jewish forever, and that makes me different. And again, we have a very different perspective here. This next person is Angela, and she's born in South Korea. So her mom is Korean and a Buddhist, and her dad is an American Jew. Okay, and so again, this is a very diverse population. Right? So growing up, I knew my family was atypical, yet we were made to feel quite at home in our synagogue and community. As a child, I believed that my sister and I were the only ones in the Jewish community, the only ones with Asian faces, the only ones whose family trees didn't have roots in Eastern Europe, the only ones with kimchi on the Seder plate. But as I grew older, I began to see myself reflected in the Jewish community. I was the only multiracial Jew at my Jewish summer camp in 1985. When I was a song leader there a decade later, there were a dozen. I have met hundreds of people in multiracial Jewish families in the Northeast through the Multiracial Jewish Network. Social scientist Gary Tobin numbers interracial Jewish families in the hundreds of thousands in North America. As I learn more about Jewish history and culture, I find it very powerful to learn that being of mixed race in the Jewish community was not just a modern thing. We were a mixed multitude when we left Egypt and entered Israel, and the Hebrews continued to acquire different cultures and races throughout our history. Walking through the streets of modern day Israel, one sees the multicolored faces of Ethiopian, Russian, Yemenite, Iraqi, Moroccan, Polish, and countless other races of Jews. Many facial particularities, but all Jewish. What does it mean to be a normal Jewish family today? As we learn each other's stories, we hear the challenges and joys of reconciling our sometimes competing identities of being Jewish while also feminist, Arab, gay, African American, or Korean. We are a mixed multitude in ancient times, and we still are. Okay, guys, thanks. Make sure to fill out the Venn diagram, and there's going to be a couple questions based on that. Have a good night.